Welcome, I'm Nina Gryphon, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel. Today, we will look at the astrology of the second week of April 2024. As I explained previously, I have moved from doing a single monthly forecast to a forecast for each week of the month. There's simply too much to say about what is going on astrologically, but I still want to make the videos easy to access and bite-size. Patrons will get access to each week's forecast a few days before the week begins, and the general public will get access to them as the week begins. If you would like to become a patron, please go to patreon.com/NinaGryphon, where you can sign up at any tier. At the highest tier, you can get access to my monthly Magical Elections ebook, which teaches you how and when to make astrological talismans. The second week of April starts off with April 8th's solar eclipse at 19 Aries. This is an important eclipse in 2024, being visible across a large part of North America. I intend to make a separate video about the solar eclipse, so I will give a broad overview here and more details later. A solar eclipse always results in the withdrawal of the sun's light, which symbolizes the light of reason at the mundane level, and the light of ultimate truth or the divine at the spiritual level. Solar eclipses are a conjunction of the sun and moon, when the moon's shadow temporarily blocks out the sun in a part of the world. It is a moment when the individual represented by the moon seems to overshadow the spark of the divine represented by the sun. This is at the heart of why eclipses, especially solar eclipses, are considered inauspicious in traditional thought. They reverse the order of precedence in the cosmos and elevate the temporary and personal over the divine and eternal. We do not see the light of truth during an eclipse and instead elevate our limited ego. So the solar eclipse is not a time to make important decisions for this reason, because we are temporarily blinded. In the outside world, a solar eclipse might literally take out a solar person, a ruler, or a famous individual, all of whom are represented by the sun. Remember that the effects of solar eclipses can literally take some years to manifest, so it may happen around the time of the eclipse or much later. A solar figure, someone to whom people look up to, might quite literally vanish out of sight, whether literally or metaphorically. On April 10th, Mars will conjoin Saturn at 14 Pisces. This is the lesser conjunction in traditional terminology, occurring every 2 years. It's considered highly malevolent, as it is the union of two malefic planets. While it is nowhere near as momentous as the Great Conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, which happens only every 20 years, Mars conjoining Saturn leaves its mark on the year in which it occurs. Mars and Saturn are both superior planets, so their meeting signifies important events, even if not quite at the level of the Grand Conjunction. In their outer world, Mars and Saturn bring storms and floods and excessive moisture of all kinds. It could impact Southern California, and specifically the Los Angeles area, which correlates strongly to Virgo Pisces. Harmful events and tragedies occurring in or around water are highlighted. Since Saturn entered Pisces, we've seen lots of attacks on shipping in the Red Sea, as well as high-profile deaths occurring in water, such as the implosion of the Titan submarine, many people dying on capsizing migrant boats in the Mediterranean, and most recently, one shipping billionaire drowning in her Tesla. We could see conflicts about water and islands now, too. While Mars and Saturn are in orb, which is approximately from late March to late April, this conjunction will continue to operate. On the internal level, the combination of Mars and Saturn can represent the dark night of the soul. Saturn's sacred metal is lead, the heaviest of the traditional metals, and represents what Titus Burckhardt calls the chaotic immersion of consciousness in the body, where the refined and subtle call of the soul is drowned out by the heavy, insulating nature of physical incarnation. Mars, whose metal is iron, another very heavy and hard metal, also reflects the soul falling into the constricting prison of the body. At a superficial level, the soul dwelling in the body would seem a tragedy, with the material world a kind of prison. However, as Burckhardt says, the divine spark in us only seems to die when the soul enters the house of Saturn, which is the body in the material world. In truth, however, it arises anew, and ascending through the 7 levels of consciousness becomes the red lion, the all-transmuting elixir." End quote. In other words, Mars and Saturn can be a prison, but they are also steps in the ladder out of the material world. We now face the choice of viewing an event as a nail in our coffin, or as a chance to grow and get better. April 11th, the Sun will conjoin Mercury retrograde at 22 Aries. The inferior conjunction of Sun and Mercury, so called because Mercury is the closest to the Earth in this conjunction. The inferior conjunction occurs when Mercury is retrograde, and it's the midpoint or culmination of the Sun-Mercury synodic cycle, which began with the superior conjunction February 28th, conjoining Saturn as well. The conjunction is a moment of the Sun's purification of Mercury, and Mercury, being the agent of alchemical transformation, is not only himself changed, but he's also energized to go forth into his new cycle as an agent of change for the world at large. That change likely won't be noticeable until Mercury has his morning rise in about a week's time, when he emerges from the Sun's beams like a messenger charging out of the gate to the second half of his journey. This is an opportunity to listen to the voice of the soul and consider what we are being called to do during this mercurial cycle. Since we are at the midpoint of the cycle now, we have the opportunity to consider what we've done so far and turn inward for the second half of the journey. The next Mercury-Sun conjunction, the superior conjunction, occurs June 14th, so the 2 months until then present a chance to finalize and integrate whatever has been developing since February 28th. The themes will vary, but this cycle could involve the issues of status and self-perception, since the Sun is exalted in Aries. At the deepest level, the cycle offers the chance to learn about spiritual light and its transmutation. In the world, this could represent a change in the direction of a conflict or a war, internal or cross-border, as the conjunction occurs in warlike Aries. The Sun exalted represents a ruler or highly visible public figure whose previous direction could also change, seemingly out of nowhere. Thanks for watching. I'm Gryphon, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel.